Okay, good morning, West Valley Center for Spiritual Living.
Good morning, everybody.
What a nice sunny day we got out here, as opposed to all the rain we've been having.
But we love the rain.
Yeah, so we're going to start this service like we do almost every Sunday with a song called This Is the Day, and we hope that you would rise and sing with us and join in the spirit and get this party started.
This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. Sing that with me. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day, a day to be seized, yeah. A day I can feel my spirit set free. Yes, this is the day. It's time to fly higher and high up in the sky. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day all my dreams come true. Can feel the Spirit working His way through. Yes, this is the day. It's time to fly higher and high up in the sky. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. Woo!
Good morning. Welcome to West Valley Center for Spiritual Living. My name is Reverend Clyde Goins. I'm the assistant minister here, and this is the day for the Super Bowl. For some people, you know, it's really funny, you guys. I never was really into the Super Bowl, but I have no choice now because Mark watches Super Bowl football all the time. But now I'm starting to get into it. But anyways, I am glad that you guys made it here. The Super Bowl's not till this evening, right? So everybody can still come to church. That's what I'm saying. All right, so there's a couple of some great announcements. So starting this Thursday, we're going to be starting our spiritual practice on Thursday, spot on Thursday, and it starts at 1:30. There's a 1:30 session, and there's also a 6 p.m. section here in the service in the center. Also want to let you know that we're doing a drum circle with Reverend Susan, and that's on Saturday at 11 a.m., so please join for that. Also want to remind you that we have Dining with the Dudes today, so we have tailgate food out there. You can start the party here and then go on to your other parties. Speaking of other parties, Reverend Susan is also opening up her tailgate party. It was a Gourmet for God event, and there's the fee for the Gourmet for God, or the pricing for it was $45, and so it's open. So if you want to go to a tailgate party, it'll be at Reverend Susan's house, so please speak with her after the service and enjoy in those festivities. All right, and then another exciting thing with Dining with the Dudes, but it's the Projects of Love have tapped onto it, so they're really wanting to spread their love. So you guys can go into the Papke Hall, and you can see they've got it all decorated, and they've got some fun stuff going on there. So it'll be fun food, fun events. So it's a lot going on right now. So one last thing is, change our world. That's our theme this year, right? Change our world. And so last week or so, Mark and I were watching this documentary on Netflix about We Are the World. How many people remember that song, We Are the World? I love that song. Well, anyways, it's a great documentary. The song came out in 1985. They raised $80 million for humanity for humanity aid for Africa, and it was about 20 artists that did it. And that, for me, the most incredible thing is they got together after some awards event, right? And then after they got done, so they've been drinking and everything else, you know. I'm sure they have been, right? So they go to this recording studio. They were there till 7 o'clock the next morning to stay there the whole time, because this is a one-time deal that they had to get this recorded. And it was such a beautiful, so if you get a chance to watch it, it was such a beautiful documentary, you know, one about the people being so humble to be with the other artists and really sharing that time with them, and then really feeling that they knew through their music they could change the world, right? So this is just another example of how we can change the world, just being who we are and sharing our gifts. So all right, so that is our theme, change our world. So let's start off with saying our vision statement. So if you can repeat with or say it with me. We are a loving, joy-filled community, honoring the many paths of God as we learn and live the Science of Mind principles. And so it is. So just sit back. Don't be thinking about the football game. Open up your hearts and minds for the Bradford's beautiful music and Reverend Karen's important message. Thank you.
So just take a deep cleansing breath as we go within.
I will make a quiet place within my heart, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord.
Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still and know.
I will make a quiet place within my mind, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord.
Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still and know. I will make a quiet place within my life, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord. I will make a quiet place.
Good morning, God. Knowing that right here and now, that divine intelligence, that infinite wisdom, that pure joy and peace that resides in all of us. We know this because we are one with that divine mind. We walk in the light of God, as God, and through God. We live, move, and have our being in that divine presence. This is the energy that is residing right here and now in this room, an energy of absolute peace, joy, love, ease, and wonderment. As we talk about or listen to Reverend Karen with her divine message, one with complete, open, and honesty about your highest and greatest unfoldment. I know this for myself, just as I know this for each and every one of you. That presence is expressing itself in, as, and through you, just as it's expressing itself through each of the players and coaches and referees for the big tailgate day today / Super Bowl Sunday. We are grateful for this knowingness. We are open and receptive as I release my word into that universal law. Know it is unfolding for our highest and greatest good. I release it, I let it go, and together we say, and so it is. Eek. Go Chiefs! Just had to get my 2 cents in there. Good afternoon, morning. My name is Reverend Susan Peterson. Today I chose a reading out of Can We Talk to God by Ernest Holmes. Unless we are engaged in spiritual and mental practice, we need not spend more than 30 to an hour each day in meditation. This amount of time is of immeasurable value in our practical life. For it is here that we join the real to the ideal and practical life. For it is here that we join the real to the ideal and receive inspiration for action and guidance toward accomplishments. The happiness of the individual life is essential to the universal wholeness, for thus alone can it find an extension of itself. We should definitely declare that the spirit within us is the Spirit of God, quickening to right action everything which we touch, bringing the best out of all our experiences, forever guiding and sustaining the greatest good which our mind is able to conceive should be affirmed as part of our daily experience. Take a moment to think about this, as we know that God is right here, right now, and expressing through each and every one of us. I got the things on. Have a great day.
My funny Valentine, sweet comic Valentine, you make me smile with my heart. Your looks are laughable, unphotographable, yet you're my favorite work of art. Is your figure less than Greek? Is your mouth a little weak when you open it to speak? Are you smart? Don't change your hair for me, not if you care for me. Stay Each day is Valentine's Day. That's my honey. Less than Greek, is your mouth a little weak when you open it to speak? Are you smart? But don't change your hair for me, not if you care for me. Stay, Valentine, stay. Each day is Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's, everybody.
Fabulous. Oh, that was so yummy. Thank you, Bradfords. You just made me remember how much Hugh loved listening to you do that on the guitar. That was really outstanding. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the West Valley Center. We have a very distinguished guest in the audience today, and I'm very honored. Did not know she was coming. Dr. Ruth Deaton is here, and Dr. Ruth was actually one of the ministers that led this community many years ago along with her husband, Jack. So welcome. It's so good to see you. Thanks for being here. It's always fun to have a special guest. Somebody, Dr. Ruth, what you see here, you built the foundation of, and we speak to that frequently, how we stand on the shoulders of those who came before us. Thank you so much for having such substance and vision. So, yes. The title of my message this morning is Practice-Based Faith. And I'm very excited about talking about this topic because practice-based faith is what religious science is. We have always promoted the application to spiritual principles. And so today, my aim is to give a rather simple understanding of a very large concept that you couldn't even learn in the first 10 weeks of a foundational class, but you could sure get a beginning feeling for. And I took the title, I like that term, practice-based faith. I stumbled on it while I was reading a book over this summer called The Eternal Current. And it was actually while I was reading that book that I got my first little hints of, we need to do something that is centered on spiritual practice that will provide an opportunity for individuals to have a spiritual experience beyond Sunday. And so I began to form these ideas as I explored other avenues. But in the book entitled Eternal Current, and the author is Aaron Nyquist said this: practice-based faith will help us move beyond mere belief to get swept up in what God is trying to do inside of us. See, that's my dream, is that we can just provide an environment where people can come and have some sort of an experience where they maybe even just accidentally bump into that power that's greater than we are, and you will know you have been touched by the hand of God. So we're talking about love and law here. Dr. Holmes, the founder of this teaching, often shortened to, we have a triune nature of God that we teach in the foundation class, but Dr. Holmes would shorten it and speak to the idea of love and law and love. And it is Valentine's, isn't it? It's a whole month of celebrating love, and we have lots of love going on in Papke Hall, I'm told, after service, along with the tailgate, go, whoever you're rooting for. Yeah, no. I'm neutral up here. I'm not rooting for anybody. And so it's important to remember every now and then that our teaching is based on both love and law. And when we talk about love, Holmes was very specific in talking about the presence of God and the immediacy of that presence and the way that each of us, in our own way, in our own time, we have this opportunity to encounter something that is larger than we are. And then he would talk about law, and law is the principle. It's the way when Holmes would say there's a power for good that's greater than we are and we can use it. That's what we're talking about, using the principles and having that personal application in the choices you make in your daily endeavors. So I like that statement that God created the heavens and the earth. Right? God created the land and the sea and all of the magnificence of the stars in the heavens. God created the animals and the fish in the sea, and God created humanity. And then the best part of that verse in the book of Genesis says, God created the heavens and the earth and then rested. God looked and could see that it was good. God pronounced that it was good. See, God had some sort of a desire. I mean, we try and think about it. I heard there was a lively discussion in Reverend Clyde's Wednesday night group on look right at him. I heard he did it. I heard he started it all. So these are things that are hard to comprehend, but I think that's the purpose of gathering, so we can throw out questions and have discussions and have people scratch their head and go, I don't know. But the I don't know space, the wondering space, is where we have an opportunity to grow, where we have an opportunity to expand or enlarge our concept of what God is. So God had a desire, God had an image in the mental idea of the infinite creator of all of life. There was an idea of bringing physical life into form, and we live on this planet and we have a human experience, and there's so much of life that's going on around us. And it's important every now and then to come back to that place to remember that at some point God looked and declared it was good. Not everybody's clapping. And that's because, no, you don't have to. Don't let me influence you. That's because sometimes life doesn't look so good. And that's what this message is about today. It's about expecting and anticipating holy encounters where you have those brief moments of just having a moment of beauty, a moment of wonderment, a time where something just washes over you and you sense that there is that which is bigger, that which God named as good, but it feels sort of elusive to us in living in this physical form on this physical planet. So there's a reason that spiritual practice calls us to sit still for a little while, calls us to expand what we're thinking, helps us to return our attention to that good that God named. Now, the brain is where we get into trouble. The brain, they call the brain a binary operating system. And that means that the brain compares, the brain sees things differently than the greater spiritual reality that's always taking place. Ours is a practice-based teaching. Listen to these words of Dr. Ernest Holmes. He said, and these are well-repeated words, familiar to many, to hold one's thoughts steadfastly to that which is constructive. It may not be easy in a rapidly changing world, but to do so will bring us much reward. To hold our thoughts with steadfast conviction to the constructive as opposed to the destructive, to the goodness on the planet, instead of the times we feel like life has done us wrong, to be steadfast to that in these times we live in that are rapidly changing can be challenging. And yet as we do that, much good can result. So we practice. We have a purpose, right? We practice so that we can find a stable way to move through the changes that are always unfolding on the planet. We practice so that we can spend time living our lives constructively in a positive way. We practice renewing our minds so that we can transform our lives. And we practice being grateful for our blessings. And we look for inspiring resources that will uplift us on a daily basis. That's being big for God. That's looking at our blessings and the inspiration and being grateful for all of that. That's what that means to this community. And in that very same place of the quote from Holmes that I just read to you, in fact, above it, preceding those words, he says this: what the world needs is spiritual conviction followed by spiritual experience. I intend to offer you an additional opportunity in the weeks to come to have a spiritual experience in this sanctuary. We are starting spiritual practice on Thursdays. I'm starting it intentionally during the season of Lent, and we will do it on Thursdays at 1:30 in the afternoon, and we will repeat it again at 6 p.m. in the evening. It will be a short opportunity to sit in the sacredness of this sanctuary. It will look a bit like a Taizé service, if you've ever been to a Taizé. And for about a half an hour, we will have music and prayer. We'll do a reading, and you'll have an opportunity to get involved. It should be the environment should be very inducive to the potential for bumping into Spirit itself. And then after that, we're going to step over into Papke Hall, and we will each week introduce some type of spiritual practice that may or may not be new to you. But what we want to do is expand the ideas we have of what all is included in our personal spiritual practice. And so that is all going to happen. And by the way, I'm not trying to talk you into coming. What I am really intending in this message for you to garner is that this is a practice-based faith, and you can do this in your own home. We do know when two or more gather, there's something intensified about that gathering. And by the way, we will not be filming this. I do not want a tech team to have to be here to help me. I want it to be simple and basic and extremely sacred, and we'll just see what happens. We'll just see if that's what we're ready for. I love that idea that we bring our spiritual conviction and then we open ourselves to this spiritual experience. That's how we carry it into our lives. That's how we carry it out into the world. So I indeed am feeling almost an urgency in helping us move beyond the intellect. We are a very intellectual group of people. We adore this spiritual philosophy for how thought-provoking it is, and you can use it in an intellectual level, and we can use the law. And now I want to introduce you to the possibility of understanding that presence of God, that side that we call love, in a very intimate and personal way. The essence of all healing, we say, is the revealing of a greater embodiment of the wholeness of life. You see, if we get there in spirit by way of spiritual experience, then what we know is that there is a way we can understand that life is perfect, whole, and complete as it is. But it is only when we are seeing with the eyes of God, we are seeing the way that God paused and looked and pronounced that life is good. So we're seeing with the eyes of God, and then we can embody a new way of living our lives. I have this personal attraction as a minister. It seems very important to me that this teaching and your own personal dedication to a spiritual path is a way that we come to recognize a very personal and relevant God in our own lives. And that's a relationship that I would encourage us all to nurture and expand. There is one guiding force. There is only one life force in this universe, one God, we say. But there are thousands of ways to personalize and use the law. There are infinite possibilities for the type of relationship you desire to build in terms of an intimacy with the divine, having an intimate relationship with God. There are unlimited ways to find relevance in spirituality, and each of us on this planet will have a very different idea of what that looks like and what that includes. But we're always expanding. Every day is an opportunity to expand your capacity to know God in a little more intimate way. What else did I want to say? I believe that the gathering on Thursdays, and part of my intention is that as we come together in a setting that's that sacred, that we can expand our spiritual vision in the ways I've described. But I also anticipate, I could see this morphing into more of a midweek healing service, but I see a way that it's possible. It could also be healing and soothing to our souls. Certainly, as we get in that zone and we harmonize with Spirit itself, there's going to be an upgrade in the way that we think later. Therefore, that has to be good. There's a positive impact from all of that. Let me just tell you that I love it when Holmes wrote in that poetic fashion, and he said this from the book, This Thing Called You. The greatest minds of the ages have wooed and wed some invisible presence until its atmosphere and essence have become woven into the fabric of their own existence. That's the oneness that is so difficult to teach. That he's talking about that idea of feeling completely at one, connected with that essence of Spirit, that way in which it's almost like we're courting the divine, to be wooed and to wed. Wedding, marriage is a contractual, that we make vows to each other. And so now we're spilling into being wooed and wed with the divine, that we're talking relationship. In the Course in Miracles, they might say it's a return to love. In the Tao, they would call it the way. In Buddhism, they would talk about awakening to these realities. But, let's just take it to modern day brain science. Do you know there's a field I just read this week. There's a field of brain science they're calling neurotheology. Isn't that fun? And in the realm of neuroscience, the neuroscientists are now telling us there are two ways that we receive information. What I'm about to report comes from the work of Andrew Newberg, and Andrew Newberg is actually featured in the Science of Mind magazine. He does a column with another neuroscientist who actually teaches in our school of ministry, Mark Waldman, I think. And Andrew Newberg published his material, the results of all his brain studies in 2001, and some of you will remember that it made the cover of Newsweek magazine. In big, bold letters, it said, God and the brain, or your brain, God and the brain. And that was in 2001. And what they were saying is that the brain, as there are two ways we get information, and one is, that's where I got the term, the brain is a binary operating system. In other words, the brain looks always at the brain is always looking at pairs of opposites. And so the brain, it's important to the brain that we understand the difference between up and down. We know that, don't we? We know that the brain is looking at things like before and after. The brain is looking at things like big and little. I'm trying a new mic today. And Rod was trying to help me put it on, and he went, "You have elf ears. This won't stay on because your ears are too small," right? So there's a comparison. The brain is good at finding those differences. We can also see how this is problematic sometimes. The heart, however, the heart is considered an organ of spiritual perception. Isn't that fabulous? An organ of spiritual perception. And the heart, they say, cannot perceive differences. This is feeling important. The heart perceives by means of harmony. Now, I find this stunning. This is really valuable information when we're looking at spirituality, when we're talking about this idea of oneness or being perfect and whole and complete, and the way that God sees is not the way we see on a regular basis. We got to work to be able to see those greater realities. We have to intend. We have to look for them. So the heart does not perceive differences. It only perceives harmony because the heart is organically, naturally connected always to the divine. You know how we say something in you, something in you knows, right? So now we're seeing science talking to us about the activities of how we perceive information, and they're talking about the heart. When we are living a heart-centered life, we are less likely to perceive differences. I think the world could use a little bit of that. When we're aligned or when we're heart-centered, our thinking is more likely to pick up on the divine patterns that are everywhere around us. Sort of like getting excited over a new idea. You know, I can be sitting in my reading chair in the morning, and I can read something. There was a new book released last summer, Ernest Holmes at Asilomar, and man, is that dense. Because they are transcriptions of lectures that he gave in that last decade of his life. And when I'm sitting there reading, they're not new ideas. It's just that we've never quite read it in the context that we're getting it now. And I will have these aha moments. Do you know what I'm talking about? I know you do. I know you do. You haven't. You read something that could be just ordinary, that you absolutely know that you already know, but it hits you in a totally different way. The divine harmony. You are resonating for a moment in the oneness of spirit, of life, of all creation. And then what happens after that? It's always interesting to me that after I have one of those moments, first of all, I'll try and tell somebody, I'll go, hey, Reverend Clyde, you know what I just read? This is so exciting. Let me tell you about it while it's fresh in my mind. And then I try and repeat it, and he goes, well, yeah, we know that. Well, I know, but I got it in a new way. See, you can't take anybody with you. We're left alone to discover it on our own. But once you discover it, you can't put it back. And so what happens then, you know this too, that whatever that aha experience was, it follows you, and you bump into the same thought or idea again and again and again. Because that is an eternal truth. You have tapped into that eternal current so that, how did he say it? So that we can get swept up in what God is doing inside of us. So you'll see that truth everywhere you look, and you'll feel absolutely validated. We even call it God winks. You get the synchronicities and you're all excited, but it's because they're always there. Those truths are already around us everywhere. That wonderment, that beauty, that essential truth of all of life that is found in every faith tradition. And our spiritual practice is what helps us develop that heart awareness. And so the longer we honor a regular spiritual practice, the more often we're going to notice that we bump into God or truth in that divine way. So we're talking about coming from our heart instead of the intellectual thinking or the way that the brain functions. In fact, the neurotheologists tell us that we are functioning from a whole different operating system. And I think that is probably what Jesus meant when he said, "Blessed are the pure in heart." See, it's not a moral lesson. It's a big statement. Blessed are the pure in heart. I think it brings new meaning for me when I look at scriptures. This one is from Paul, that we're transformed when we renew our minds. Again, it's not a moral lesson. These are actually radical calls for a transformation of consciousness that we are looking at in a very global way, and yet we are only asked to do our part. You'll know if you're called to do something else. You will know. But we start here. We start on Sunday mornings, and we're going to do it on Thursdays too, where we look at that relationship, that oneness, that love, that way the heart desires to harmonize with that gorgeous truth that life is good. I'm reading a fabulous book called The Wisdom of Jesus by a woman who is an Episcopalian priest. Her name is Cynthia Bourgeau. And in her book, she's talking about this exact topic. And she says, when we develop heart awareness, we function from a non-dual consciousness. It's not a higher level of the same old mind. It is a whole new system. This is in perfect alignment with what we're talking about today. There are two ways of perceiving the world: through the brain or through the heart. When we sit in meditation, when we pray, when we are reflective or contemplative in our spiritual practices, we are opening ourselves to have our minds renewed. And the thing is, it's not just good for me when I meditate. I certainly know from experience when you do, some days you do, some days you don't. You notice from experience over time that when you skip that quiet time of sitting still and oneing with the divine, it's not the same as the days where I have had a sitting practice. And so I notice that it doesn't just change me. It changes everybody I meet for the rest of the day, because I move through the world softer and kinder when I have harmonized with Spirit. And then when you have encounters with individuals, it's a different type of encounter. In Proverbs, it says a gentle voice, or a gentle word, I can't remember. A gentle word. Oh, let me look. A gentle answer turns away rage. A gentle answer. Don't think you know that. Hear it. Really, right? Hear it. A gentle. When I move through the world, these were my words, and I have done my practice, I'm calmer, I'm kinder, I'm gentler. And therefore, rage has no place in that experience. And because I have harmonized with the divine, I am less likely to look out at the world and see differences. I am more likely to bump into beauty, into truth, to have my ahas of the morning validated, and to live, as Holmes and Thomas Troward would say, 51% above the average thinking. There are a lot of churches, a lot of religions, always, through all time, and there always will be, who believe that we're living in the last days. Religions that have always touted that. I get a picture of somebody must have done a black and white back in the 50s of that guy holding the placard on his body, on a city street. It's the end of the world. And there's actually a word for it. It's eschatology or something like that. It's not important. But of course, we age and we realize, wow, I'm not here like this forever. So things change. And I would say that, I was a Bible fundamentalist for many years, and we did believe in the end times. In fact, we would try to warn all of you to wake up and change your ways. And so we often used that scripture that said, the kingdom is at hand. Jesus said, the kingdom is at hand. He talked about the new order of things. And there's always that urgency in it. It's like, oh, wow, I got to get my act together right now, because at any minute it could come, it could happen. And I just want to say that the kind of change and shift in consciousness that we're talking about this morning would mean the end of an old world. I think we've said goodbye to an old world before pre-lockdown. We're not living in the same world that we used to. And sometimes things break apart so they can fall away, and then this divine newness, this holiness can emerge. And I do see that that's what's happening on the planet, and we're invited to participate, and we're invited to harmonize so that we can see what's good even when the world looks kind of scary. The kingdom of heaven is within. Jesus said that. The kingdom of heaven is within it. When I examine the life of Jesus, and even in the way that I learned about it when I was a fundamentalist, when I look at that, what I understand is that the whole idea of the Lord's Prayer, that thy kingdom come, thy will on earth as it is in heaven, we are talking again and again about living from a transformed consciousness. And it's not an end result. It's not like we're going to just get there and like the 100th monkey, and eventually we're all going to shift and every life is going to be, or we're going to be lifted, or it's probably not like any of that. We're probably missing, in thinking those things, we're missing the beauty of every day. God looked and said, it is good. We want to live from the pureness of heart. We want to put on that new mind. And when we do those things, we will be participating in bringing that new world into being. if you hear a different call, you got to answer that. But the message here is to do what's yours every day so that we can transform our ability to not only see the world from a different consciousness, but to feel that sense of being swept up in what God is trying to do inside each one of us. I know change is challenging. Do you remember your life before your first smartphone? Me either. I mean, I remember it was kind of scary, like it changed my life, and it wasn't in a good way at first. And then over time, I realized how convenient it was and how much more work I could get accomplished in a short period of time, and how convenient texting was. And, you know, you're in, you're out, and you can be pretty succinct. You learn. If you're me, it's hard. But you learn to be more succinct on text. And I remember that. And now my life is so different now that if I go to the grocery store, which is about a half a mile from my front door, and I get there and I realize I've left my phone on the counter at home or on the charger, I'm suddenly afraid. Like, oh, what if I get in an accident or something? You know, it makes your world go wonky. Like, oh, I'm detached from my phone, and I'm not like some of you. You guys, some of you wear it on your own. Well, I'm not judging. No judgment here. Because, you know, even if you did get into your car stalls on the way home and you got a call for help and somebody stops to help you and they loan you their cell phone, you don't know your numbers anymore. Who would you call? You know, could you call a friend for me, please? It's like, I don't know any of my kids' phone numbers anymore. And then, you know, I was married for 50 years and suddenly I'm abruptly single, not by choice. And I've got 2 cell phones, but I don't need 2 cell phones. But I was afraid to give up his phone because, you know what I'm going to say, don't you? When you lose your phone in the house, it's nice to have a second phone to call it so you can find out wherever you left your phone. It took me 1 year to let his phone go. And I even asked the people, what do you do if you lose your phone? And they said, you get one of these. So I don't want one of those. And now I still lose my phone, but I find it. I just go find it, and it's not so scary. An old world has completed itself. We step into the new world, and we figure out how to do the things that are new. So change is challenging, but we are made for it. The brain is a binary operating system, and the brain worries about everything. It's just trying to preserve us. Some would call it, we have called it ego from a spiritual perspective. But the heart perceives harmony. In God, all things are unified into this great whole. There is no place where God is not. Therefore, divine perfection can express through us at any time. And the more attentive we are, the more skilled we are at using the law, spiritual principles, the greater our experience of success is. When we find our way in that eternal current, we begin to see singleness instead of dualness. Let the brain do its work, but use your heart so that you might transfigure your entire life. In those holy moments, we transfigure, we change the physical world through the power of oneness. And then we get to a point, we can arrive at a point where we can look at the global heart statement and that line that we have here when we created our shorter version of that as a community. There's a line in there that says that we can see, we believe in a world that works for all living beings. And when we hold that belief dear, when we allow our heart to harmonize with that truth, we no longer see the world as broken, but we see it as holy. The brain will always see opposites because contrast is what it is designed to do. It's the job of the human brain. It's a part of preserving us. But a practice-based faith will restore your vision and harmonize your being. And that's what I wanted to say today. So just get comfortable where you're seated. Take a nice, deep, cleansing breath. And as we allow the energy to shift and deepen, stimulating something holy within us in this joyous and sacred anticipation of these words of prayer. I feel the love of God within me. I feel that love moving through this room. And I know that even as those who listen from afar are in that same space with us in this energetic prayer, I know that all of us unify and harmonize in the love of God. There is only one force, one life force. It is the presence of God. It is the infinite knowing. It is the creator of all creation. It is that which in its own infinite knowing named it all good. So this day, as we have considered many thoughts, we have allowed our brain to measure and compare, even while we opened our hearts and harmonized with these greater truths. So I feel and recognize the love of God right here, right wherever we are. In this exact moment is the fullness of that intelligence that created all of life. So I know that there is a resonance within our being that recognizes this eternal truth. I know that we move into that beautiful current and that we are swept with this idea that God is giving us something. Something is emerging through us. It is divine. It is true. It is holy. It is the very truth that sustains all of life. So I feel it and I sense it, and I know that for some there's a quickening within us. We are called to reveal the truth of our wholeness, and therefore there is healing that is happening right now. At the sounds of these words, there is a healing as we allow ourselves to just let Spirit express through us and as us. I know that this healing effect, it ripples out. It impacts our loved ones. It reminds us that even where our family members, our friends, and our neighbors, where each of us abides, is the love of God, the fullness of God's love right there. And so our relationships are blessed. Our finances are blessed. This community is blessed in this gorgeous way because we say yes to living in the currents of life. We allow ourselves to sense the presence of beauty, of wisdom, of truth, and we allow Spirit to also be that presence of God, that love that comforts and guides and directs. So everything we need is indeed already given. And I say thank you, God. Thank you, life. Thank you, infinite Spirit, for this and for all that is yet to come. And I release these words knowing they are good we let them be. And together we say, and so it is. Amen. Amen.
Grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. I am so grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. Everywhere I look and every face I see is love reflected, shining back to me. I just give thanks for all these simple things, the joy and peace that gratitude brings. That's why I'm grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. I am so grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have.
Yes, we have a lot to be grateful for. So now's the time to celebrate the abundance of our lives and the abundance of our community. But before we say our giving affirmation together, I want to remind you that we have our business meeting next week. So please join us for our business meeting. We're going to be going over Reverend Karen's vision for 2024, also talking about 2023, our budget, which I like to talk about money all the time. So please join us. We need a quorum so we can get through our business meeting. So please join us next week. All right, so let's say our giving affirmation together. So just say it with me. I'm living in a consciousness of good. Divine love blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God, and so it is.
Please rise for our last song. Oh, it feels so good to be alive. Oh, it feels so good to be alive. I ain't thinking about my problems. I'm living now. I'm living now. And I ain't gonna worry about the future. I'm living now. I'm living now. So put your hands up if you feel like having a good time. Put your hands up if you're sharing love with all. Raise your cup if you're hopeful for tomorrow. Put your hands up if you're ready to have some fun. And sing it. Oh, it feels so good to be alive. Oh, it feels so good to be alive. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live in the moment. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live in the moment. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live in the moment. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life, live. Oh, it feels so good to be alive. Oh, it feels so good to be alive. One more time. Oh, it feels so good to be alive. Woo.
Yes, it does. All right. So please join us afterwards for fellowship, and let's say our closing affirmation together. I lean into my spiritual practice.
I lean into my spiritual practice
And continue to deepen my relationship with God.
and continue to deepen my relationship with God.
And so it is.